Krendl, president of Otterbein University, and we're here today to talk about an additional segment of Otterbein Spotlight. Over the last few months, we've talked about a number of the changes that are occurring at Otterbein with our transition to semesters. We've talked with students about the aspects of experiential learning that they are now involved in as we introduce the new curriculum. And in the last segment, we talked with the faculty about the meaning, the purpose, and the real principles that guided the faculty deliberations in creating that new curriculum. But there's another part of this new part of the history, a new era for Otterbein, and that involves a series of partnerships that we've been developing in recent months. Now, these partnerships go back a few years. They're not entirely new, but we've tried to bring some new life and new energy to those partnerships. Routinely, the partners in the City of Westerville, and that involves the City of Westerville City Government, it involves the schools, Westerville Schools, it involves the Chamber of Commerce. In fact, the Chamber is our convener, is our host. We recently added the library to the mix, and Otterbein University. And we sit down on a quarterly basis to talk about issues, plans, ideas, things that are coming down the pike, issues that we're facing in the future, and we try to find some solutions by talking about ways that we might partner on those solutions. I thought today what we would do is talk about what that new era of partnerships means for Otterbein as part of our spotlight, but more importantly what it means for our partners in terms of the relationship with Otterbein and in terms of the City of Westerville. We're very proud to be a resident, a long-term resident of one of the best places to live in the entire country, named by Money Magazine as the 15th best place to live. I think we're moving up in the ranks, and I think one of our guests has the ambition of being first. So we'll see how that's going and what the time frame is. But at any rate, I have guests with us today from the schools, from Westerville Schools and from city government, and I'm going to introduce them and ask them just to say a few words about their own history and their own involvement in these partnerships. And then we'll talk specifically about some of the ways that we are working together and some of the hopes for the future. So let me start. To my left is Michelle Klein. And Michelle, you're with Westerville City Schools, so tell us a little bit about your job and what you do there.
Well, Kathy, currently I'm the Director of Assessment, Accountability, and Alternative Education. And I have been lucky enough to have many different jobs in Westerville at many different buildings. And one of the things I treasure most is the actual time that I spent in the classroom and the time that I spent as a building principal. Those are things that are near and dear to my heart, and I feel that they've prepared me for the job that I'm currently in. You mentioned partnerships and what we've done. One of the problems that we saw in Westerville was that our students that had finished calculus were not able to go on unless they went far, far away and entered into a post-secondary educational option. So that was one of the problems we had, and Otterbein came up with a solution that is going to help us that we'll talk about in just a few minutes.
Great. Well, that's part of the discussion, is identifying the problems and then trying to find solutions. So we'll get to those examples. To Michelle's left is Dave Collinsworth, our city manager. So Dave, say a few words about yourself. I think we all know what you do. You manage construction projects these days, I guess. But
we are doing a lot of construction, Kathy, and a lot of good things are happening right now in the community. We had the great privilege and honor of opening up the new aquatic center this spring, which has had great reviews from the community, great response in terms of attendance at the new facility. Of great interest to a lot of people was the Main Street Bridge, which should be opening about the time this show is airing. So we're excited to reunite East and West again and to bring the community back together through the Main Street Bridge project. And then a lot of other important construction projects that are occurring. So yes, there's been a lot on that front in the last 18 to 24 months.
And you've been here for this, are you starting your fourth year, is that correct?
I am completing my fourth year in the next couple of months.
Okay,
so yes,
okay.
It's been a fast 4 years.
Well, we're very happy to have you here. And Christy Robbins. Christy, tell us about yourself.
My background is serving as a Board of Education member for the Westerville City Schools. Actually grew up in Westerville. My family moved here in 1967, so not only am I on the Board of Education, but I had the privilege and honor of going through the school system and even attending some courses at Otterbein when I was a senior in high school. So served on the board for the past 5.5, almost 6 years. And we are very excited about the opportunities in terms of partnerships that currently exist and may be coming down the pike in the future.
And you have a daughter at Otterbein now, so
Absolutely,
we're very happy to have
yes.
her. So another form of partnership.
She's happy to be here.
Well, Christy, you probably have the longest history in terms of what it meant to grow up in Westerville with Otterbein here and what it means now as a member of the board. So can you describe to us historically what kind of relationships have we had, what kind of partnerships have existed over the years?
Many of the partnerships that have existed really have helped to strengthen the community. One of the things that was developed or created several years ago was a partnership meeting, a quarterly partnership meeting, and as you mentioned, it would be made up of various representatives from the various key stakeholders in the community, and that includes Otterbein and the city and the schools and the chamber and the library. And at the time that that idea was launched, we had a lot of conversation around the synergy that could come as a result, and the shared resources, and making sure that we are all well informed in terms of what the other entities are doing, and so that we can strengthen one another and work together to make this community the way it is today.
And as a high school student, you were able to take courses at Otterbein?
Yes, and that was something that was, I think, fairly new back then. I hate to date myself, but at the time I was a senior in high school. I was a fairly young senior, and rather than graduating early, I was given the opportunity to take courses. It was a course a quarter at Otterbein College. So when I started school, I had 15 credit hours already to my credit. So it was a wonderful way to continue to keep me engaged in the high school, but to prepare me for moving into college.
Right. Well, let's fast forward to today then and how that works. Michelle, I know you've been involved in a series of partnerships that we've been working on with Otterbein, between Otterbein and the schools, and you're going to be opening up the new Academic Enrichment Center, and I think that opens up some new opportunities. So talk a little bit about what you've been working with in terms of opportunities for students, current
Sure.
students.
Well, one of the things that was very important to us is that we were meeting the needs of students at all levels. And some of our accelerated students were having some difficulty, specifically in the content area of math, in that they weren't being able to be challenged. So after AP Calc, they were pretty much done at our high school. So I actually started talking originally with Sue Constable with regard to this from Otterbein, and just kind of brainstorming what we could do. The next thing I knew, Paul Eisenstein had contacted me, and we started working together. So Paul and his team, Dr. Burnt and Dr. Tong, have developed the Calculus 2 and multivariable calculus for fall and spring semester that our students, 11 of our students, will be taking right on our campus at the Academic Enrichment Center. So the Academic Enrichment Center opens up many opportunities, not just for students and partnerships, but also for adults as well in the evening. So we're excited about that opportunity. The one thing I do want to share with you, like Christy, I actually went to Otterbein as well.
Oh, you did?
For
Okay.
advanced placement my senior
Okay.
year, and went to Central College Elementary, Walnut Springs Junior
okay.
High, Westerville High School, that dates me a little bit, and then I was the first graduating class out of Westerville North. So
Oh, great.
I have a little bit of history here too.
Very
so
good.
we're very excited about the opportunities of accelerated learning for these students, because otherwise what would happen is they would not take math, or they would have to travel far away. Their parents are also very excited because they want the opportunity to see what Otterbein University is all about before they possibly enroll the following year. Gives them an opportunity to be a college student, to experience the curriculum and the rigor. At the same time, they're still associated with their high school and they don't have to graduate early. So it's a perfect opportunity for them.
Right. And I know this summer we worked with Westerville and also with Olentangy School District to create the Martin Essex Gifted and Talented program. And I visited with those students. I think we had about 25 students in the program. And they were from beyond the immediate community. There were some students from farther away. But it was interesting to see them. They got out to the Equine Center and did some work out there. They went to Otterbein Lake and did some watershed work. They were capturing turtles and measuring them and weighing them and so forth. So they had a great time. They got down and dirty out in the summertime. But that was, again, a summer camp that emerged from a kind of partnership discussion that we very much, I think, will benefit from, and the students had a great experience. So it was a lot of fun. So,
Good.
well, Dave, let me go to you for a second and talk about, I know last year we did I know you're very involved in the Town Gown conference, and
Yes.
I attended that with you, and I guess you might just speak as the city manager. Why is a strong Town Gown relationship important to you?
Well, first of all, I think the community has always had a strong orientation towards the college here. I think it has played a central role in the life of the community over the course of the history of Westerville. And so, and given its placement right in the heart of the community, it's important that we pay attention to that relationship. And the good thing about the Town Gown informational sessions is that there are other entities, other communities out there, and other higher ed institutions that have developed these partnerships and collaborations, and it's important for us to learn from them to see what things are working in those communities and in those universities and colleges. So I think that was an important aspect that we keep our ear to the ground as to what the developments are in those areas as well. I think it's been a good opportunity for us to kind of reinvigorate the relationship between the college and the city, or the university and the city, and to bring some fresh ideas and some fresh thinking forward.
Good. Well, we appreciate the commitment on the part of all the partners at the table. It makes it, I think I've said this before, but we think that Westerville is a great asset to us as an institution. It's very easy for us to recruit students when they see the care that the community has in terms of its maintenance of the parks and recreation facilities, the bike paths and so forth. The community looks beautiful downtown. The merchants do such a nice job. It really is an easy sell for us. People feel it's a safe and accessible community, and that's really important, I think, for parents. Many of the questions they have about what will the quality of life be and what will the safety be for their child when they come away to college. And so Westerville is a great asset to us, and I think it's in our interest for us to be a great asset to the city of Westerville as well. So let's talk a little bit about what that means. I guess let me go, Christy, let's go back to you for a second and talk about civic engagement and some of the civic partnerships that exist and have existed over the years between Otterbein and the city, from your experience.
From my experience, that's really a good illustration of the partnerships with Otterbein and with the city and the library and the chamber, and things like the development of the community garden, and having people from all the different organizations involved in that, and also helping the students in terms of service learning so that they could participate in the development of the garden, at the same time take lessons learned back to the classroom to have lots of conversation about soil and rocks and plants, and it's really been a lot of excitement for them. I have a 12-year-old, Bradley, and he was in 6th grade last year, and that was one of the highlights of his year, was to be able to work with Mr. Wicks and to go out to the community garden and realize that there's lots to learn about developing a community garden and working through that. So that's a great example. We've also partnered with Otterbein in terms of training and deployment of the AmeriCorps personnel. Right. So that's another example. Really, I think we've all realized that there's a lot of strength in these partnerships, and so the more civic organizations and the more type of civic events that we can partner with together is going to make the community stronger. And people do recognize that we have a very giving community, and we have students in the school district, students at Otterbein, people at the city who are very willing to volunteer countless hours towards serving the community.
Yeah, I continue to be amazed by the amount of volunteerism in the community, and certainly I think Otterbein, when I look at the numbers of students who sacrifice hours and hours of weekend time and evening time to work in the community, I think we just received another recognition as being, I believe we're the only school in the state that made the finalist list in the Community Service Award, the federal national Community Service Awards, and the numbers just continue to keep going up. Mm-hmm. It's just wonderful to watch the kids. And
it's interesting to me that it has evolved into not something extra to do, right, or not something to do just to gain hours, years, but it's becoming embedded in the fabric of our community.
Right.
And the students, at least through our school district, young and even the older students, are really look forward to serving the community in that regard.
Right. Well, and I think this is an active initiative for the schools as well to encourage more community service. But
Absolutely. We want the students to participate because when they participate in their community, they're more engaged. And we know that students that are engaged don't get into trouble and are more productive. So we want to encourage them.
that's what we want. Well, Michelle, I wanted to ask you also, I know we do a lot of things with students, and dual enrollment is one of those kinds of activities. So could you explain to the audience what dual enrollment is about?
Dual enrollment is when a student is taking a high school class at the same time that they're taking a college class. And the most important thing for us, for that student to get out of that experience, is the rigor. We want them to understand what college is like, and we want to allow their transition to be even smoother. You know, it's my hope and dream that, you know, one day all of our high school kids will take a college course. So I want to encourage them to do that because we know that post-secondary options help our students become more career ready. They help our students in the community, and we want to encourage them to do that. The more students we can get to have the goal of higher education, the better off our community will be as well.
Well, and I think from a parental perspective, it reduces costs if you can get some of those college credits before leaving high school.
And I think the ease for a student, you know, going off to a university, I think it lessens their transition.
Right.
And I know that one of our students last year that I interviewed after doing some dual enrollment post-secondary work said, you know, I think I'm more ready for college and I think I'm going to be okay. And it just gave them that extra, you know, confidence that they needed to feel comfortable.
Right. Well, great. Well, let's go back to Dave here and talk about another aspect of community success, and that is economic development. So if you reflect on the partnership meetings that we do with the Chamber and the city and the library and the schools and Otterbein, how does this help the city in terms of thinking about economic development and planning for it?
Well, I think first and foremost, it needs to be, I guess, restated, and maybe it's the obvious for a lot of us around the table, but the quality of the educational environment is one of the critical success factors for any community, whether it's the local school system or it's the higher education opportunities that are available within close proximity. And the fact that we have an outstanding school district, and the fact that we have Otterbein University here that can offer advanced programs and degree programs and continuing adult education efforts and things of that sort, that's a great sales tool for a community in terms of economic development. The businesses of the community want to know that they have a labor source that's going to be well educated and well prepared for the workforce. From a workforce development standpoint, that's a critical economic development issue that communities across the state and across the country are really struggling with at this point, is how do we adequately prepare the youth of today for tomorrow's workforce opportunities. So having such a rich educational environment between the school district and Otterbein is really a critical asset in that regard. And then, of course, as you know, we've bridged into other areas of collaboration and cooperation for economic development purposes, and probably one of the most significant of late is the cooperation with the development of the community data center.
Right.
And just behind this facility where we're taping, there are some walls going up and
going up quickly.
Going up quickly, and we're making good progress on the development of our community data center. And we hope and expect that all of the reason it's called a community data center is so that our community partners, the school district, the library, Otterbein and others will be able to take advantage of the investment that's being made in the technology infrastructure of the community.
Well, and increasingly, I think that technology infrastructure becomes a determinant of success for attracting businesses and for allowing people to gain access to information. And I hope we'll be able to take advantage of it as well to make educational resources more accessible to people and provide more flexibility. So it's a great piece of backbone that can help support the infrastructure for the community, I think. I guess I want to go back, Michelle, to something that, as Dave was talking about, it takes a great educated workforce to attract businesses. I think we've talked about students, but also there are ways in which Otterbein works directly with the teachers. And the TESOL, if you could talk a little bit about the TESOL endorsement.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathy. The TESOL endorsement is near and dear to our heart in Westerville City Schools because we do have a great number of English as a second language students.
Right.
And a TESOL endorsement is what you need in order to be licensed to teach and educate those students. And what's special about Otterbein is they partner with us every summer, and we actually have a summer program, a summer intervention program to help learners that are struggling. And the Otterbein University partners with us to send us teachers that need their observation and their field experience hours. At the same time, it helps them get their hours in, their student teaching hours. It greatly helps us as a school district. What it allows to happen is for us to have an even lower student-teacher ratio. Let me explain. In summer intervention, we have a 1 to 12 student-teacher ratio, which is already fantastic. It's great. We're helping those learners that really are struggling. With an Otterbein TESOL student coming in, that just changes. It gives 2 adults for every 12 students.
Okay.
So if you can imagine in a reading group, you know, when we're doing a guided reading lesson, we've suddenly got 3 groups going on simultaneously, and those students every day are getting an hour of instruction in reading. Those are fantastic ratios that we could never match without Otterbein University.
And I keep hearing this statistic, but I never can remember because it's so amazing. How many languages are spoken in the Westerville schools?
Well, my last count was 52. I don't know if that's current, though. Is it, Christy? 52 is about right.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
amazing.
It's amazing.
As
It
a
really is
principal
amazing.
at Hawthorne Elementary several years ago, I had 38 languages just spoken in my single building.
Wow.
So it's fantastic. It allows for such rich conversation with regard to so many different things that you just don't think of on a daily basis, you know, just how the family operates, different things they do, that it actually enriches the cultural experience for everyone involved in the school. So we feel very fortunate.
Well, and we think at Otterbein, we think about preparing students to live and work in a global economy and in a global market, in a sort of a whole global perspective, and yet you can see it right here in Westerville if you just look around. So it's right there before us. Well, I'd like to shift gears a little bit and talk about the future. So let's dream a little bit. We've got a couple minutes left here. So if we could dream a little bit and think about getting to number 1, getting to the top 10 in terms of quality of life, in terms of a best place to live. And we think about the strength that we have as partners now. What kinds of ideas do you have about how we could strengthen those partnerships or new directions? I'll give one example. And Dave, I think, was there when we first talked about this, but at the partnership meeting we talked about every one of our institutions, institutional partners, was struggling with the idea of sustainability and trying to figure out solutions to problems to become more green in terms of our business practices and in terms of energy consumption, in terms of our carbon footprint. So we actually created a kind of ad hoc group that meets regularly now to talk about, are there shared solutions to some of those problems? For the downtown merchants, for example, to have an aggressive recycling program for our schools. I think our schools actually use recyclable lunch trays, and we're working on those kinds of issues at Otterbein as well. So that's an example of something that grew out of our discussions. What else do you see coming down the pike, or what else should we be talking about in terms of going forward? Are there things with the schools, for example, from the curriculum perspective, are there directions we should be pursuing? Should we be looking more at distance education, blended learning opportunities?
I would have to tell you that I think blended learning opportunities are the way to go. They're the wave of the future. We have so many students that are going to online schools right now that we have to find out how to capture them, and we're finding that online education, it does work for some students, but for the majority of our students, they need that relationship piece. And so we want to create that blended learning environment so that they actually are meeting with success. I think that with Otterbein university coming on as a partner with like our calculus, I think that it's important that we start looking at different content areas and how do we overlap and how can we move forward, because our ultimate goal is not to keep a student roadblocked into high school courses. Right. If they have already mastered the concepts of that course, let's get them moving forward, because that's going to help the city. Because then in the long run, you know, it helps everyone. It perpetuates learning, and we're really about lifelong learning, not just about finishing high school.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big change for education in general, is we're not looking at a degree, a diploma. We're looking at how do you continue to refresh yourself, to reinvent yourself over the course of your life cycle, and that life cycle is getting longer and longer, and the number of careers, if they tell me one more time it will be not 3 careers but 4 careers, and not 6 jobs but 8 jobs, it's scary to me, but for this generation, that's the world that they're going to know. So, Dave, what about from your perspective, when you think about down the road, where can we go with this partnership?
Yeah, being a city manager, my mind naturally shifts towards concepts like infrastructure. And so what's the infrastructure of the 21st century that will help communities thrive? And I think that our fiber optic initiative, along with the data center, is a key element in that, in the sense that it will provide a greater capability for connectivity within the community, but not only within the community, but outside the community as well, in terms of providing the kind of bandwidth that's necessary to provide high-quality educational programs, amongst other things, that could be exported by the school district, by Otterbein, to local businesses, or to outreach beyond the physical confines of the community. Once you get out there, there is a capacity issue that the internet and our current fiber optic infrastructure in the Central Ohio region and elsewhere is really a limiting factor. And so I think we view our role as being able to help expand those horizons by providing that, again, that 21st century infrastructure that a lot of communities, if they don't have, will be falling behind in terms of the types of businesses they'll be able to attract, and then the success of their local institutions being able to reach out to others regionally and globally.
Okay, good. And I guess the nice thing about the partnership, having the regular meetings, we don't come together around a crisis, we come together regularly. So we can talk, when there is a crisis, we kind of know each other and know how to sort of talk it through, but we also can identify opportunities. So if the city sees an opportunity and we can respond, the schools can respond, it helps us get through those challenging times.
I will add one more thing to that in terms of the success factors, and that one of the things that we're seeing is the out-migration of the baby boomers from the workforce and their retirement, however that gets defined. But that retirement is increasingly getting defined in terms of what types of adult education type activities can they engage in. And some of the hot spots, so to speak, for retirement communities in the country are those that are closely associated with major educational institutions. The University of Texas in Austin, for example. Austin is a hot spot for retirement living these days, and a big piece of that is the access from within the retirement communities to ongoing educational opportunities.
Yeah, and I think so much, at least the rest of Ohio seems to look at Central Ohio as sort of the boom area. This is where people are migrating. It's where extended families are located. So we see more retirees coming into town, coming into the area. So it's a great opportunity for us. Christy, what about you when you look down the road? What do you see?
Well, I continue to appreciate the fact that we live in a community where these partners come together. We know one another by first name. We know that we can pick up the phone and call one another and try to see what we can do to work better together for the future. In terms of the school district, Michelle's absolutely correct. We are working toward preparing people to enter the 21st century workforce, and with technology changing, we really have to move forward in that direction towards some type of hybrid learning system, and I think the partnerships that we've had can help us imagine what the future might look like to prepare students for the future.
Great. Well, I want to thank you all for joining me today. This has been a good discussion, and we can continue that futuristic discussion at our next partnership meeting. But again, it's really great to have you all here today and to be a part of a community where we really are having, I think, productive and ongoing and creative conversations. So thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. We'll look forward to another segment of Otterbein Spotlight down the road. Today, our focus was community partnerships. So thanks so much for joining us.